Gear up for Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. It's your final word on sports all across the state. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now here are your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
It was a complete win. Played great defense, no errors on the board. We pitched our tails off, and we battled at the plate. I couldn't be prouder of my team.
Duke has some speed. They like to run, so we've got to do a good job of limiting leadoff guys on base and hold runners.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network here on a Tuesday night, and mayhem is underway for college baseball, and who is right in the middle of it all today? The South Carolina Gamecocks. I mean, we have seen really good U.S. baseball teams that had exemplary regular season records go to Hoover, Alabama, and flail away and come home quickly. Now, I'm not saying the USC baseball team won the SEC tournament today by simply winning the play-in game, but they played exceptionally good baseball for the most part. They got all the parts that they need to come together to win games. They got power hitting, they got timely hitting, and they got some very good pitching with Tyler Johnson in particular coming in and closing things out. What a performance by Tyler Johnson over the final 4 1/3 innings, striking out 8, getting the win and propelling South Carolina into the main draw of the SEC tournament. Phil Kornbluth here and Kevin McCrary and Tom Hayes back at our studios in Columbia. And guys, it just goes to show you, as a lot of the professional announcers will tell you, including one of my favorites, John Sterling of the Yankees, you just can't explain baseball.
Yeah, appreciate that, Corn. We'll check that line and see if we can figure out what's going on there in Hoover. Corn's line, a little garbled there, so we'll see if we can get that corrected. But it was no doubt a huge win for the Gamecocks. It's a must-win if they wanted to continue their season. And the way they won, Pro, I think, is pretty significant, too. That's a game that they've lost countless times this season. They have had opportunities to get the big hit, to put a team away, let a lead get away from them, had to battle back, and then ended up losing. That's been the scenario most of this season for them. But today, they found a way to battle back, stay in the game, not lose their composure, and gut out a victory. And there's something to be said for that. Does it erase everything that's happened this season? No. Are they in the postseason now? No, they have to go and play Kentucky. Now, they are into the double elimination portion of the SEC tournament now, so they're guaranteed 2 more games. So that's significant, and they're going to need to win probably. I mean, they might have to win the whole tournament to get in, to be honest. But to get that win, I think, is big for South Carolina, and it says a lot about those players that they had the fortitude to battle through that and not just mail it in, which would have been an easy thing to do, and gut out a win.
Well, I think the key point is South Carolina still has a little cachet. I think they have to win 2 more games, though, to get into the big dance. But the key point is I've always said baseball is one of those strange sports where, if you bat 300, that's great. That means you fail 7 times. And Lady Luck just doesn't smile on you sometimes. And it's really been frowning deeply on South Carolina for most of the SEC season. I've never seen a team lose 8 straight series, but didn't get swept along the way, which tells you that this team is not a bad team, but down the stretch they have not been able to execute to at least steal 2 or 3 more games down the stretch, to at least win 2 or 3 more series. But as far as this team is concerned, I think the pendulum may be swinging, at least mentally. Maybe they think that way and they play like they did today. As you said, they executed the bunt. They got their bunts down. And then when they failed in the top of the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings to get that run across, they still did not blink and were able to steal it in the extra innings.
And they will move on. They'll face Kentucky tomorrow morning, 10:30 start time. They will not pitch Will Crow. Crow threw 122 pitches against Georgia last Thursday and a loss. They don't want to bring him back. Some people were wondering about that, and we'll hear from Chad Holbrook and get more on his explanation. But Corn can't really blame him for not bringing Crow back. Remember, he's coming off major elbow surgery. He's about to enter the Major League draft. He's going to be drafted. What is that? Early next month. That's coming up, the Major League draft. You don't want to risk anything with him. So let him sit out. They're guaranteed 2 games, so he'll be able to start that. You still have Adam Hill coming up. So they have some good starting pitching, but they did deplete that bullpen with Reagan and Tyler Johnson throwing a lot today.
Yes, they did. And you're not going to see Johnson or Reagan or Reed Scott tomorrow for sure. Johnson ended up throwing 73 pitches, Reagan 48 pitches, and Scott 82 pitches. So that's your bullpen. Typically, that's the guys coming out of the bullpen to help the Gamecocks win games. But because it was a short turnaround from the end of the regular season, they went with Scott as the starter today. He went 3 1/3, gave up 3 earned runs, a couple of hits. He walked 5. Reagan came in, did a really nice job. He went 3 1/3 innings, gave up a couple of hits, 1 earned run. He threw 48 pitches. And Johnson was the story, though. He was, according to the clock up on the scoreboard, he was hitting 98, 97 continually. He was on his game today, and the Vanderbilt players and Tim Corbin said he was the difference. They just couldn't hit him. You know, it's one of those deals you can't hit what you can't see, and he was just that good today. On top of that, the Gamecocks played airless baseball. They got clutch hitting. They got the hit by Destino in the 11th to give them a little bit of a cushion after Hogan drew the bases-loaded walk to put them up 1, breaking the 4-4 tie. Then Destino comes up. Something the Gamecocks have been lacking a good bit this year is clutch hitting. He got a double off the wall to drive in 2. They played a little hit and run in that inning as well to help them get in position to win. Things just went well for the most part today, and it was a good, solid victory. Chad Holbrook said the Georgia win on Saturday, this win today, probably their 2 best performances of the season. So, you know, who knows? It's sometimes you come in a situation like this and you get real loose, and you know that you got to play like there's no tomorrow for you, and that's how it is still for South Carolina. Now, look, they're going to play Kentucky tomorrow with practically no pitching. So it could get ugly, no question about it. But if you're South Carolina now, you look at it this way. You got the necessary win today to get you into the double elimination tournament. If you take your lumps tomorrow using the middle part of your bullpen, that's what it's going to be, and you move on. But now you're going to have, for Thursday, you're going to have a well-rested Will Crow, and he has to go out performance, and then you'll have some of the 3 who pitched today probably ready for you on Thursday. If you can win that game, you've got Adam Hill going for you on Friday, and that gives you a fighting chance no matter who you're playing. Crow on Thursday, Hill on Friday gives you a fighting chance if you're South Carolina. If they could somehow manage a 3-2 stay here in Hoover, that might put them just back into the conversation strongly for the NCAA tournament. But they got a lot of work to do before we get to all that. But for today, for South Carolina, it felt like they'd won the SEC tournament. I mean, you know, it's their first win in this tournament since 2012. They hadn't led a game in the tournament since 2014. It's Chad Holbrook's first win in the tournament as the Gamecocks head coach. So a lot of positive feeling firsts for the Gamecocks today, and they deserved it. They put a good team, a Vanderbilt team that will be probably a 2nd seed somewhere, maybe at Clemson. Mm-hmm. And did they see Vanderbilt's best pitching today? No, they saw relievers today, but that's what happens in these elimination games as you're coming off the end of the regular season. Everybody's going to be throwing their relievers for the most part, and you hope they're good enough to get you through and into the main draw. So we'll hear from the Gamecocks coming up. We'll check in with David Hood, who's in Louisville. Clemson plays tonight against Duke at 7:30. We'll update the scores across the country and take your calls as well. What do you think? 800-956-7266. We're back in a moment.
Been a long time since a Gamecock baseball coach has walked out of this place with a win.
Yeah, it's we hadn't always played our best baseball. We hadn't always played our best baseball here.
We are back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Jared Rogers Martin back in control, though we hardly missed him. In fact, the show was so smooth in his absence. I kind of feel like it's not as good with him back. What do you guys think? Are you happy he's back?
Golly, this guy just comes out throwing haymakers.
You know, when I left, I had won 2 awards, but then now back to the doghouse.
Yep. So what have you done for me lately? World, apparently, Jared.
Pat Jack Daniel is my new favorite producer. He'll be waiting in the wings, believe me. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. So you Gamecock fans who've been hard on the Gamecocks and on Chad Holbrook, you're feeling a little better about things after today maybe, or are you just thinking about this as, it was just one of those days, they'll get back to losing tomorrow and be out of here on Thursday. 800-956-7266. Our email, talkback@sportstalksc.com. And on Twitter, it's @SportsTalkSC. Give you a quick recap of today's game. Then we're going to hear from Chad Holbrook. USC wins it in 11, 7-4. And the Gamecocks got off to a terrific start. In the top of the first inning, Cortez, a 2-run homer, put the Gamecocks up 2-0, and then Bride in the second put the Gamecocks up 3-0. You know, a place where the ball typically doesn't carry all that well, really carrying well today. It was 3-0, the Gamecocks, until the second, and that is when Vanderbilt scored 3 runs off of Reed Scott to tie it up to make it a 3-3 game. In the third row homer, the Gamecocks' third homer of the game, and the Gamecocks go up 4-3, stayed that way until the fourth, and that is when Vanderbilt managed to tie things up and make it a 4-4. I'm sorry, it was in the fourth that Reagan came in for Scott and got out of some trouble to keep it a 4-3 USC lead, stayed that way until the seventh. And Vanderbilt tied it up. The number 9 hitter, he homered to a left center made it a 4-4 game. That was off of Reagan. Johnson later came in and got out of the inning. And from that point till the 11th, there were a couple of threats here and there, but there was no scoring. We go to the 11th. The Gamecocks load the bases. Olson walks. Taylor struck out. Williams pitch hitting for Flint, who had pinch run earlier in the game. He struck out. There were 2 men out, a runner on first. Holbrook starts the hit and run, and Rowe doubles to left field. So you got second and third, 2 out. They walked Cortez intentionally to load the bases, and then the freshman, Hogan, he drew the bases loaded walk on a 3-2 pitch to force in the go-ahead run, and then Destino doubled to right field, driving in 2 more. And then in the bottom of the 11th, it was 1-2-3 for Vanderbilt against Johnson, and the Gamecocks had their win. And for Chad Holbrook, the rare occasion here in recent years for a Gamecock baseball coach to actually pick up a win in Hoover.
We hadn't always played our best baseball here, but we did today. And we can't really worry about what's happened in the past, whether it's past seasons or whether it's past games this season. And we just focused on the here and now today and played a complete game. It was really, really good to see.
To get off to the good start in the early lead, maybe settle you guys down a little bit?
We created some momentum and some energy. I don't know if it we know Vanderbilt's going to score. And I was more proud to see them handle the adversity when Vanderbilt fought back and tied the game up, because we've been a fragile group from time to time, because, at some point in time when things continually don't necessarily go your way, you can see some heads drop. And I didn't see any of that today. And that was about the most proud I've been of my group all year long because of that. And they fought their tails. They played hard, played together. It was a clean baseball game, and we stood up when we needed to stand up there with the game on the line.
Just one win. You didn't win the tournament today, but was this more along the lines of what you envisioned with this team going into the season, the way you had power, ran the bases, and got the pitching?
Well, yeah, and, we still don't have our guys. I mean, Madison's out and Cullen's out and Olson's got strep throat and LT can barely walk. And I don't know if this performance is what I envisioned. I don't know if it's necessarily we're operating on full-scale throttle and all cylinders. We're certainly not there, but we played a complete game today, the guys that were in between the white lines, and that was neat to see.
The pitching situation now moving forward, you said you're not going to move Crow up to start tomorrow, so what are you thinking about?
Well, Crow's thrown 120 pitches his last 2 starts, and he's been moved up both of those starts. So don't think it's fair to him. We try to take care of our pitchers, and he's coming off Tommy John, and, we're not going to do that to him with the future that he has. So we're just going to try to mix and match it and go with what we can. Part's going to have to pitch. Coley Bowers is going to have to pitch. There's going to be a number of other guys. It's going to have to. Cody Morris is probably going to have to pitch, and maybe we can, mix it up 2 or 3 innings at a time here and keep them off balance. And maybe all the guys that we throw out there tomorrow throw good. You have to against that team. They're awfully good offensively.
The 3 you used today, who were all bullpen guys, when can you expect to maybe get them back?
Well, the pitch count, Tyler's going to be out a while, obviously, with 73, and Reed will probably be out a while with 82. But, Reagan might can return in a day or 2, and we're going to get them in the pool, get them in the jacuzzi. There's no tomorrow, and they're going to have to recover a little faster than we make them recover during the season, and we'll see what happens.
But you do get a chance to enjoy this win here since they've come so infrequent?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big game. It's the SEC tournament, and sometimes we've been here and we hadn't had to perform great. This year we have to perform well, and it's good to see us get us off to a good start. Yeah, I'm going to enjoy it for a couple of hours and then realize we got a huge monumental task in front of us tomorrow. But we're in a double elimination phase now. Anything can happen, and soon we'll get back on our rotation from a pitching standpoint. And who knows what happens? Just keep playing and see if we can put ourselves in position to win, which we've done all year. Today we just figured out how to win.
All right, there you go, Chad Holbrook. And, guys, he hit on something, comparing this to teams of the past that were really good teams and went in there and went 0-2 and then went on and did really good things in the NCAA tournament. That feeling of urgency is definitely with this team because I think they know that a loss today would have ended their season. A loss tomorrow will not end their season. They still have a chance now to play again on Thursday, but they might be thinking, like I mentioned at the outset, win 3 games, and that might very well put you back in strong conversation for an at-large bid to the tournament. So that feeling of urgency and that focus that brings, guys, might lead to better overall performances by the Gamecocks here in Hoover for a few days.
And sometimes just turning the page and starting that new season to get on the bus, and it's a clean slate, so to speak. You can flush everything else and say the season starts now, just win. This is the postseason. Let's see what's going to happen. And that can get you a little relief. It's just one game, though, and it was a big one. They had to use a lot. I'm sure they would have liked to have been able to get by with Reed, Scott, and Reagan, but Reagan had that one bad pitch. Boy, he always seems to have that one pitch, that one home run, and to the number 9 hitter who had not hit one out all season long, and he takes one out the dead center. And at that point, I'm sure I wasn't alone, Corn. In fact, I'm sure I was in the vast majority of people going, they're gonna do it again. It's gonna happen to them again. 4-4. They're gonna lose this game. In the 9th inning, when they had the runner on third, 1 out. And who was it? Olsen, who hit into the double play? Riley Hogan. It was Riley Hogan. It was Riley Hogan
on the first pitch.
Yeah, first.
It was the first pitch to Hogan. He hit it on the button. He just hit it right at the third baseman.
Right.
And so you go back to that home run that was hit by Kaiser. Not only was that his first homer of the season, it's his first homer of his career at Vanderbilt. Now he's a sophomore, so he's just finishing up his second year. But his first homer of his career, he's a .212 hitter, and he gave the Gamecock fits all day. He not only did he have that home run, he had a couple of walks as well. But it was the homer that really hurt at that particular time. Yeah, you're right, K-Mac. You kind of expected the worst to happen for the Gamecocks, but when they got into extras, they had a chance in the 10th. They got some runners on, couldn't get them home, but Johnson was too good. Johnson was overpowering Vanderbilt, and I think all the Gamecocks knew if they could just get a run on the board with Johnson on the mound, they were going to win this particular day. We'll be right back. Welcome back in Sports Talk, everybody. South Carolina Radio Network. Mayhem underway. College baseball tournament action. I know the weather is a problem in a lot of areas, including here in Hoover, because they are in a rain delay back over at the stadium. Missouri leading Texas A&M in a slugfest, 11-7. There was a grand slam involved in the mix there, and that's pushed back the other games tonight. Boy, I pity the Ole Miss Auburn fans and media and the Georgia Mississippi State fans and media. That's the last game of the day, and it's going to start way late tonight and go into tomorrow morning. No doubt about that. And of course, South Carolina defeated Vanderbilt in 11 innings, 7-4. Let's catch you up on some of the other action. Then we're going to chat with David Hood, who's in Louisville covering the Clemson Tigers, who play tonight against Duke. Miami beat Georgia Tech 6-5-13. And in the seventh, it's NC State over Boston College, 3-1. Clemson and Duke will be coming up in just a little bit. In the Big South tournament over in Lexington, nothing has happened today. I guess everything's been pushed back because how bad was the rain in the Columbia area, guys?
It was bad. It was a steady, hard rain, so everything in Lexington was washed out. They actually had a delayed start in Greenville with the one game between the Citadel and VMI, and it's not looking good for the Bulldogs right now. At least it wasn't at last check.
No, they're in the bottom of the fifth. The Keydets are leading the Citadel 7-0. I think all the action today in the Sun Belt was washed out too because of the weather, and that's down at Georgia Southern. And the Colonial Athletic, everything washed out today as well. So there's going to be a lot of baseball crammed in over the next several days in some of these leagues. But let's go to Louisville, where, as I'm watching NC State and Boston College, it looks like it's a pretty day there, David Hood. A lot of sunshine, no raindrops in the Louisville area.
No, it is. It's really nice here. Probably the high 70s and some scattered clouds. We ran through a lot of rain on the way up here, but it's going to be a beautiful evening for baseball.
Very good. Tell us about the Tigers and Duke. And, of course, we had Monty on last night, and he's going to go with Charlie Barnes. No fooling around with him. He's throwing his ace out there. With this format, and you're not the top seed in your pool, you can't afford to take a loss if you want to try to get to the weekend.
No, this is must win. If you don't want to have that game on Friday be meaningless. Virginia the higher seed, so Clemson and Duke, they both have to win tonight if they want to play on Saturday or Sunday. And Monty said he's going to throw Charlie Barnes. He's going to be on 4 days rest, so I think that's worth watching. But everybody else in the bullpen, I think, is going to be available, except for Pat Krall, who's on 2 days rest. And Monty said Pat might want the ball at the end of the game, but they're going to keep him on the bench until Friday.
Historically, how has Barnes been on less than his normal rest?
He did it one time a little bit earlier this year, and I thought when he kind of got into the middle innings, he struggled a little bit. Maybe a little bit tired. Pitchers are creatures of habit. They like that routine, and when you get them off of it. But I think Charlie's going to be okay, and it's one of those things. Maybe the adrenaline will be flowing a little bit, knowing that this is a quote unquote must win game. Maybe the adrenaline will get him over the tiredness.
Yeah. Talking with David Hood of TigerNet, who'll be there covering the ACC tournaments for TigerNet and for us as well. Tigers and Duke tonight, scheduled for a 7:30 start. Looks like there's a decent chance, unless this game gets tied up, that you guys will start close to 7:30.
Yeah, I think so. That extra inning game earlier today between Georgia Tech and Miami, I thought it was going to throw a wrench into some things. And I was thinking, man, we're not going to start till 9 o'clock. But this one, I hate to say anything, looks like it's clicking along.
Be careful.
As soon as you say that, here we go into extra innings. But, the ACC treats us well. I've got plenty of Skittles and M&Ms to keep me happy until it starts.
Very nice, very nice. Now, of course, you've seen this team all season long. You've seen them a lot. I see areas of improvement. I think defensively they're vastly improved over last year's team. I mean, just in terms of the number of errors, you can tell that. But did this team hit a wall in the latter third of the ACC, or was it just a matter of the schedule catching up with them and playing really good teams? They were in a lot of those games, of course, had some close losses, as Monty pointed out last night. But how did you view it?
I viewed it as two things. The schedule caught up with them a little bit. North Carolina, Louisville, those are really, Florida State was getting people back. Those are really good baseball teams. And then, the injury bug bit them a little bit. Chris Williams being out, putting a freshman in at catcher who, really isn't much of an offensive threat. Chris hasn't been the same. I thought, that really hurt him a little bit. And then the bullpen really kind of hit mid-season, and Brooks Crawford was out with mono, and the other kid, Ryan Miller, he was really good early in the season. He may not be back till a regional, and they relied on some guys a lot. And I think a lot of those guys just got tired. It lengthened everybody out. And, he was using guys that normally he probably wouldn't want to use against really good teams in the 7th and 8th inning. He was having to use those guys. So I think the schedule and some injuries kind of caught up to him a little bit.
Well, somebody just hit a 3-run homer for State, so they're up 6-1. That's a good-looking stadium from what I can tell from my view on television. What's it look like to you in person?
It's gorgeous. I mean, we've got the bridge over the river kind of out beyond the outfield wall, and it's just a gorgeous, kind of got like an old train depot look on the outside where you pick up the credentials. And for people who like bourbon, Angels Envy Bourbon is also on the corner. So, it's got a lot of really good things about it, some positive things.
Yeah, a way to maybe help a ball game move along a little slower if you make your way over to the bourbon area there. And last thing, so the Tigers, everybody, the projections are still solid for them to be a 1 seed and hosting a regional. Even if they don't get to the weekend here, if they go 1-1, don't make it into the weekend, or 0-2, you still foresee the Tigers in good shape for hosting a regional?
Yeah, I think so. I think the fact that they went undefeated in the midweek games this year, and the RPI is still strong, I think all of that says that they're still going to host. And maybe what they're playing for now, I don't know if anything short of an ACC championship will get them back into the national seed picture. So right now it's come out. I think this team really needs to build off of what they did at NC State last weekend. That was last really 10 innings when the offense got back in gear, and see if they can get things rolling heading into the NCAAs.
Okay, David, we thank you, my man. Enjoy your baseball tonight, and we'll look for your coverage on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, and also on TigerNet. For the folks who just want it totally orange, they can go to TigerNet and see it there and see other good stuff as well. We thank you very much.
Hey, thanks, buddy.
Take care. David Hood with us from Louisville. So NC State well on its way to a win over Boston College. No big surprise there. 6-1 as they play in the top of the 8th. The Tigers. How about the decision to go with Charlie Barnes on 4 days rest? That is what Monty Lee decided to do. He's obviously he feels like, and Charlie Barnes feels like the arm is strong enough to take the work and run him right back out there against NC State on, I guess it would have been Thursday night. Charlie, let's see here. Well, they don't give you the pitch count on this. He went 7 innings. I do not have his pitch count. Doggone it. This thing doesn't give you the pitch count. So I don't know how many pitches he did work 7 innings. So you got to imagine that he was somewhere in the 90s, maybe 80 or 90s.
Well, yeah,
he gave up 7 hits, struck out. See, he struck out 11, so he threw a lot of pitches.
But 5 days rest, 4 days rest is a lot. Pitchers in the major leagues throw every 5 days. In college, you get a little more of a break. And if the guy's okay and says he's okay and feels good, then you hand him the ball. I think we make too much about pitch counts. Guys know when they're ready. There's a reason why Will Crow's not pitching. He was still a little sore, wasn't ready to go. So you hold them off. You don't throw somebody back out there if you don't have to. But 4 days is plenty of time to rest.
All right, we'll be right back.
foul.
All right, the weather is still bad here in the Hoover, Alabama area. They're in a delay over at the stadium. Fortunately, we got the South Carolina game in and a little over half of game number 2. I don't know what's going to happen here the rest of the evening. There's a very, very big rain cell hanging over the area with lightning. Now, not only the rain, that's part of the problem. You've got lightning going on as well. And anytime there's a lightning strike, it's at least a half hour before you can get back to play. So it could be either a very long night at the stadium where they're just going to send everybody home and somehow try and rework it and make it a very long day tomorrow, hoping that the weather improves. This is going to be an issue around the Southeast for the next couple of days until this system moves out of here. But you know what? The Gamecocks got their work done today, and they were very happy to get on the field and get their win and move into the main draw of the SEC tournament. You can point to a number of different heroes for the Gamecocks tonight, but I think at the end of the day, everybody's going to single out Tyler Johnson for his performance, and he was outstanding. I mean, he was on his game. His control was excellent. His speed was in the upper 90s if the gun was accurate at the stadium. On the day, he threw 73 pitches. He struck out 8. He gave up just 1 hit in 4 1/3. He only walked 1 of the 14 batters he faced. He fanned 8. It was that kind of domination. And he was asked afterwards, and also we're going to hear from Carlos Cortez, I'll get it, who hit a home run as well. He's part of this clip as well. But it's going to begin with Johnson talking about his performance and just how sharp he was today.
That I was throwing strikes today. I was able to put the ball in the zone and was able to either force them to have weak contact on the fastball and then shake them off with an off speed or keep pounding the fastball to him. And I just say that'd be the biggest difference. I was able to hit outside, inside, up, and down today. So for the most part.
Just when's the last time you feel like you were that good on the mound?
I don't know. It reminded me of a regional last year. I wasn't trying to throw my hardest. I was just trying to stay within myself. And clearly I need to do that a little bit more often.
Tyler, did you go in with the mindset when you came in that you could go 3 or 4 innings today, depending on how they needed you?
No, well, the way things have gone, being a little bit erratic here recently or of late, I really just took it 1 pitch at a time. And once I did something good, I just said to myself, "Good, let's do it again and again." And I didn't have the expectation of going that far, but I'm glad I could give the team a chance to win.
Started off with a hot start in the game. Not only did that fuel you for the rest of the game, it really fueled your team. What was the mentality behind that first hit and your mentality behind the rest of the game?
I just got to pitch a drive. It was actually a hit, but I hit it out and
good coaching.
Yeah. Okay. It just fed energy, and then everything rolled after that. We hit a little cold spot. I think it was Zach King. He was throwing a lot of strikes out there, and then we just had a lot of energy the whole game. Played really good.
All right, some of the comments from the Gamecocks. Carlos Cortez there at the end. He had an early home run to put the Gamecocks up, and Tyler Johnson finished it off. So they were good early in building their lead, and they were good late in taking the lead and holding on and picking up the win to stay alive in the tournament and advance to the main draw. The Gamecocks are now 33-23. That's an 11 seed beating a 6 seed, and tomorrow they will play the number 2 seed Kentucky Wildcats, who have had the number 3 seed, the Kentucky Wildcats. The Gamecocks get them, the number 3 seed tomorrow, Kentucky. LSU, the number 2 seed, awaits the winner of Texas A&M, Missouri. Number 1 seed is Florida, gets the winner of Auburn, Ole Miss, and number 4, Arkansas, gets the winner of Mississippi State and Georgia whenever those games are played. All right. Let's give you the recruiting report for tonight, because recruiting never gets rained out, as you know. Dexter Lawrence, Clemson standout sophomore defensive tackle out of Wake Forest, North Carolina. He has a younger brother who's a really good running back, and the Clemson coaches took note of him while recruiting Dexter. Now they're back looking at Devin Lawrence. He rushed for 1,700 yards and 27 touchdowns last season. Now he's a much sought-after prospect, just like his brother was. And he says Clemson is in his top 5 right now with UCLA, Georgia, and North Carolina. He said Clemson tells him they want him primarily as a running back, but they could also see him playing safety or corner. To him, he says it doesn't matter. It's wherever he can get on the field the quickest. He's been to Clemson, of course, several times. Likes the idea of teaming up with the brother. However, he'll make his decision independent of the fact that he has a brother at Clemson. He said Clemson's recruiting him a decent amount. He said not too much, not too little. Robbie Caldwell's in regular contact. He did not take any trips in the spring, and he plans to take visits to his top 5 this summer. He said North Carolina has been recruiting him the hardest of his favorites. He plans to make a November decision because he will be an early graduate. Quarterback Trad Beatty of Ben Lippen was offered by Furman. He also has offers from Mississippi State, Appalachian State, Temple, and Ball State. Now, this is a big quarterback. He's like 6'5". He's a left-hander and has been very impressive in some camps, and people are starting to take notice of him. He has that SEC offer from Mississippi State. USC with more offers. In the 2019 class, defensive back Brendan Gant of Lakeland, Florida, running back Darian Brown of Buford, Georgia, and linebacker Adaris G. of Cordele, Georgia. In basketball, USC's Frank Martin offered 2018 point guard Jalen Carey of New York City. This according to Northeastern basketball reporter Adam Zangoria. Some of his other offers include Kansas, Connecticut, Seton Hall, Florida, Texas, Notre Dame, Syracuse, and others. And tomorrow is the day that Mark Allstork is to announce his college choice. Interesting, today it was announced that Demarcus Blanton is retiring from basketball because of his hip injury that he suffered when he came to South Carolina as a freshman. It was a very bad hip injury, missed an entire year, never could fully recover from that. So he is going to take a medical hardship, stay in school, stay with the program from kind of an assistant, a volunteer assistant standpoint. But he comes off the books, and that puts USC at the 13 max at this particular time. But they still have 2 transfers that they are recruiting, and Allstork is the one who will make his announcement sometime tomorrow. I do not know the time. He has not given me a time. His plan was to go on local media in the Dayton area where he lives, on radio, television up there. So I don't know the time. Just monitor that tomorrow on Twitter. It'll come out at some point in time, but you can look for that from South Carolina, from South Carolina's standpoint tomorrow. That'll be a big decision because apparently he's a guy, he started out at Ball State, transferred to Wright State, had a really good year. He put his name in the NBA draft, but he's going to take it out if he hasn't already. And it's South Carolina, Pitt, Illinois, and LSU, all big-time programs who want him. So he must have impressed those coaches. And, guys, we also got word today that Clemson is taking his name out of the draft as well.
Yes, he is, returning to Clemson.
It's good because he could have fallen in the category of Red McDavid if he was stayed in the draft.
Yeah, he was a little more draftable than Red McDavid.
But apparently not right now in terms of the NBA people. Yeah, no question about that. All right, top of the hour break is coming up. We will continue to update baseball. We will take your phone calls. 800-956-7266 is the number. And we'll hear from the Gamecocks' Alex Destino as well in our second hour. And Kerry Tharp will join us too. We'll be back. I think they've got a long distance block on that phone on everything. I hate when they do that, and then they don't get it. No, you're ready. All right, here we go. Kill your mic if you would, so I don't hear the. There you go. Coming down in 3, 2, 1. Running back Devin Lawrence of Wake Forest, North Carolina, the younger brother of Clemson standout defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence, has the Tigers in his top 5 with LSU, UCLA, Georgia, and North Carolina. He plans a decision in November and will be an early graduate. He rushed for 1,700 yards and 27 touchdowns last season. Quarterback Trad Beatty of Ben Lippen was offered by Furman. He also has offers from Mississippi State, Appalachian State, Temple, and Ball State. In basketball, USC's Frank Martin offered 6'3" point guard Jalen Carey of New York City. And today, 6'5" transfer guard Mark Allstork is to announce his decision from USC, LSU, Pitt, and USC, LSU, Pitt, and Illinois. Damn it. All right, pick it up with the last sentence. 3, 2, 1. And today, 6'5" transfer guard Mark Allstork, take it again, in 3, 2, 1. And today, 6'5" transfer guard Mark Allstork is to announce his decision from USC, LSU, Pitt, and Illinois. Phil Kornblut, South Carolina Radio Network Sports. Decision from USC, LSU, Pitt, and today 6'5" transfer and today 6'5" transfer guard Mark Allstork is to Radio Network Sports.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
We are back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, Professor Tom Hayes, and Jared Rogers Martin. Boy, I haven't had to say that name in a long time. He's back with us as well. 800-956-7266 is the number. NC State and Boston College have gone final. BC loaded the bases in the top of the ninth, but I don't think they scored any runs, and so NC State wins it 6-1. So that's over. So Duke and Clemson will be starting up, not right at 7:30, but not too far off. And Miami beat Georgia Tech 6-5. Here, it's still nasty outside. I'm about 10 miles or so from the stadium, and we have very heavy weather overhead. And still in a rain delay. Missouri leading Texas A&M 11-7. Of course, USC got its win earlier today in 11 over Vanderbilt. 7-4. Everything in the Big South's been washed out. Everything in the Sun Belt washed out today as well. Southern Conference had a long delay before they finally got a game underway between the Citadel and VMI. They're in the 8th, and VMI is cruising over the Bulldogs by a 7-0 count. One more recruiting note. This just coming out a little while ago. USC running back commitment Deshaun Fenwick of Bradenton, Florida, announces that he will enroll in January at USC. So that's good news for South Carolina there. He apparently is a very good running back. Few other notes to pass along to you. The Athlon preseason All-SEC team is out, and USC's Deebo Samuel is listed twice. First team as all-purpose back and second team as a kick returner. Tight end Hayden Hurst is on the first team. And linebacker Sky Moore is on the second team. That's a lot of respect for a guy who missed all of last year, but justified. Zach Bailey is on the third team. So, you know what you're starting to see, guys? You're starting to see South Carolina players pop up on some lists. I think Alan Knott's on the Remington preseason watch list. You're starting to see some names from the Gamecocks pop up on some lists, which tells you that the talent level must be improving.
Yes, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and Deebo Samuel making it as an all-purpose back. That's kind of interesting, although he did run a couple in, but he's a definite wide receiver. And as a kick returner, Hayden Hurst, a first-teamer. They have some playmakers. I mean, they have Jake Bentley, you could argue, could be a third-team type of pick for a preseason All-SEC quarterback. You like that team a lot more this year than he did last year. If they can stop anybody. And their defense, I know they have concerns, guys, defensively, but how can they be any worse as a defense from a personnel standpoint than they were last year? And they actually, they got lit up a few games, especially late when they started running out of numbers and people figured them out. But they made some pretty good defensive stops last year. They were an improved defense last year in year one under Muschamp than they were the previous year with a lot of the same players. I think they're going to have more talent on that side of the ball. Maybe not depth, but I think they're going to be better than people think defensively next year.
The scheme was sounder from a defensive standpoint. And let's face it, the defense kept them in games campaign except for the Mississippi State game. Obviously, when they got down the stretch, their offense still was sort of challenged, and they wore down because early in the campaign they were on the field a lot. The defense, and they really did not have the numbers, the depth, and a lot of times you saw the frontline players playing just too many snaps in the early games, and they ran out of gas. But I suspect if the offense is as good as they think it could be, Corn, that defense will play better because they're going to be able to get their rest in, and at some point play with a lead rather than playing from behind.
Yeah. Well, I think the whole defense rests on the defensive front. Linebackers should be fine. Maybe a little thin, but fine in terms of talent. I mean, Brunson, don't forget about him. Bryson Allen Williams, Sky Moore being back. Eldridge Thompson coming in from junior college should help. I think the secondary is going to be okay, if not much improved. I love DJ Smith at safety. Lamont's back there, has a lot of experience, should be very good. Fenton as well. And I'm looking, of course, at Jemias Williams coming in as a true freshman. And if he can back up the talk about him, he should play a lot, maybe as a nickel or as a corner. He should play a lot early. The junior college transfer, Nixon, as well, should come in and give them a lot of experience and depth. An older guy coming in and playing right away. You expect Jamarcus King, after getting his feelings hurt, to be a much improved player as well, a stronger player. So I think they'll be better back there. But, the best secondary can't hold up against a 4-second, 5-second quarterback drop. They have got to put pressure on the quarterback, and I don't know yet where that pressure is going to come from. Though, they took Darius English last year and made him into an 8-sack guy. If they can do that with him, they can do that with some of these other fellas as well.
Well, the key point is getting the quarterback out of his release point or his comfort zone. And the guy I look for to give him some good improvement, Corn, especially because he's really unorthodox, is Ulrich Jones rushing up the middle, because he does play a little bit high, but that's not bad if your quarterback is looking down the middle of the field and there's Ulrich Jones standing there, and he has to take that extra step away to get a release point and maybe get some sacks that way. But I think the penetration up front, Stallworth being a senior, that'll be key early with them sort of getting the quarterback out of his release point and maybe buying some time to get some guys in there to get a sack or two.
I think it all hinges there. I think the offense is going to be 30-plus points per game. I have no doubt about that. I think the kicking game will be fine. The place kicker showed a very strong leg in the spring game. I think they'll be fine there. A punter, they got to figure out who the punter is going to be. And I think defensively, if they are better up front and they can put pressure on the quarterback, then the defense will be better as well. That was one of the if you were to ask Muschamp and the defensive coaches, the biggest drawback with the defense was the inability to consistently rush the quarterback. If they can fix that with some guys, then I think they're going to be
stop the run.
Lot better.
Well, it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, you got to stop the run.
If you can get to the quarterback, they didn't have, as Will Muschamp calls them, enough fast twitch guys. They were a slow defense, and it was really obvious. I remember watching them play Florida in the Swamp last year, and it was like they were moving a half a step slower. It's like Florida had the turbo button. They were pushing X on the controller, on the PlayStation controller. Corn, I know you're a big gamer, and you push that X button on Madden, it gives you a little burst of speed, but the Gamecocks didn't have an X button against the Gators. They definitely didn't have an X button against Clemson. They need some more guys that can push the X button.
Yeah, Clemson had a lot of X button pushers with the guys they had on offense, for sure. Just checking the live RPI and with their win today over Vanderbilt, South Carolina moved up 3 spots to 34. So a good day all around for South Carolina from that standpoint. Now tomorrow, weather permitting, they'll take on a team with a 7 RPI in Kentucky. Get a win there, and in all likelihood, you're back inside the top 30. So a lot of good things can happen for South Carolina here moving forward if they can just take care of their own business. Let me pass along a few other things of note. Up at Presbyterian today, Dustin Kearns was named the new basketball coach. He comes from Wofford, where he was an assistant coach there for 7 years and 4 years as associate head coach. And it's been reported that USC women's assistant Nikki McCray-Pinson is in line to be the next coach at Old Dominion. In fact, that could have been announced this afternoon. Didn't see if it was, but apparently that is where that job is headed. Back in a moment.
I wouldn't say it's a huge emotional win, but
we continue with Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornblut in Hoover for the SEC tournament. David Hood is in Louisville for the ACC tournament. Tigers' first pitch now been pushed back to 8:05. Clemson and Duke tonight, 8:05. They're running a little bit behind there, not because of the weather, but the first game of the day went extras. And then NC State and BC just wrapped up. Our game today, the USC-Vandy game, went 4 hours and 1 minute. It not only went extras, it was played at a relatively slow pace as well. So a nice little 4-hour game to get things rolling. We're still in a delay here in the Hoover area at the SEC tournament because of bad weather. Moving through the area, VMI and the Citadel have gone to the bottom of the 8th. It's 7-0 Vimy in that one. Back over the SEC tournament, they're still delayed in the 6th. Missouri on top of Texas A&M, 11-7. Ole Miss and Auburn, Georgia, and Mississippi State are still to come. Kerry Tharp coming up in a couple of minutes. A lot of things to talk about with him because today NASCAR announced its schedule for 2018, and Darlington will maintain its spot Labor Day weekend of next year, which will be September the 2nd. But NASCAR announced some major changes to the lineup of tracks in the playoffs. Next season, the final regular season race will be at Indianapolis, and the round of 16 will begin at Las Vegas. NASCAR also added a second short track to the playoff. Richmond will get the second playoff race for the first time, and Charlotte will serve as the first cutoff race, and they will use a brand new road course oval at Charlotte. For the first time, the road course will be part of the NASCAR playoffs. With Charlotte moving to the cutoff of the round of 16, Dover will now host the first race of the round of 12, another playoff first with Dover coming into the playoff picture. So that's the big news coming out of NASCAR. We'll talk more about that with Kerry Tharp, and talk about Darlington Spot, and also what Charlotte is doing by going and creating a road course within Charlotte Motor Speedway for its second race, and that'll be part of the playoff next year in NASCAR. Leave it to NASCAR to always shuffle things around. They're never one to sit on their hands for too long and let things grow stale, to say the least. All right, some final thoughts on USC's win today from the Gamecocks' Alex Destino. He has been coming on of late, of course, the latter part of the season. Seemed to find his stroke once again, and he was a big player for the Gamecocks today. He was only 1 for 6, but that one was a big one. It was a 2-run double in the top of the 11th to give the Gamecocks a 3-run margin. And, of course, he's one of the elder statesmen on the team. He's had his ups and downs this year, as has the team. And he was asked after the ball game if he viewed this win as sort of a kind of a moral victory, considering what the team has gone through this season.
I wouldn't say it's a huge emotional win, but kind of Coach said it earlier, it really took the pressure off of us in a way. I mean, obviously we got a lot of work, we got our hands full, but I mean, we just can go out there and play and enjoy each other now. Getting the double elimination is huge, but we're all obviously, like Carlos said, we're very excited in the dugout. After I hit that double, I was more excited to look at my teammates in the dugout, kind of watch them celebrate and kind of see the smiles on faces, guys on the faces of guys that haven't smiled in a while, and that was good to see. So very exciting game. Obviously, it's a big win. Any win for the Gamecocks and Hoover's a big one. So keep going, and we got our hands full. I mean, we know that we're aware of who we have to play coming up, but I mean, a win like that can kind of get you in the right frame of mind to go forward.
Obviously, there have been some late innings leads that have been given up to come up there in that situation and give Tyler an extra couple of runs. What was going through your mind going up to the plate, especially considering you didn't have some success earlier with runners on base?
Mm-hmm. You know, not every bat, but I felt like there were a few bats today that was hitting the ball hard and didn't really have a whole lot to show for it. But just kind of went in there. Me and Coach Lake talked right before it. He said, I mean, sit on something, look for a pitch to drive. And I was actually looking for a breaking ball, and I got a first pitch breaking ball, but it was I was looking for it in, but it was out. And then I kind of just said, Alex, stick to your approach, try to hit the ball hard wherever it's pitched. And grew me a fastball. I was lucky enough to put a good swing on and put our team up.
Alex, I saw you kind of embrace Riley after the 11th inning. Just what did you say to him after such a big at-bat when he walked in the room?
Well, I mean, that I told him, I said, I can't really say what I said to him, but he, I was very, very excited for him. Think about when he's laying in bed tonight and kind of mature from a 2-2 and a 3-2 count against a very good pitcher with a very good breaking ball. I told him, right, that's probably the most mature at bat you've had at this university. Just kind of, I don't think right now you're going to realize how big that at bat was, but when you have time to kick back and really think about it, that was a huge at bat, probably the biggest at bat in the game for us. It got me fired up in a very good mood for my at bat. So, I mean, that was probably, and for a freshman, especially a true freshman, to kind of be in that spot, first time in Hoover. All he's heard about is the outside noise of how bad we do here. So, for him to do that against a very good arm that Vanderbilt threw, that was fun to watch for me.
Alex Destino of the Gamecocks, who had one of the big hits of the day, that 2-run double in the 11th that helped to secure the win. And now the Gamecocks get ready for the Kentucky Wildcats, a team that came to Columbia and put a 19-1 whipping on the Gamecocks back on April 28th. That coming 17 days after the Gamecocks were beaten by North Carolina 20-5. And you know, those two wins, as much as anything else, kind of lit the fire for the fans underneath Chad Holbrook. I mean, it's one thing to lose. It's another thing to be embarrassed like that. And that Kentucky game was indeed embarrassing. Kentucky had 20 runs that day, and Will started and went 4 2/3 innings and gave up 10 hits and 7 runs. The Gamecocks committed a couple of errors. Sean Jelly started for Kentucky, and he was great. 6 innings, 3 hits, no runs allowed. I imagine, and without looking back at their numbers yet, I imagine he'll be the starter for Kentucky tomorrow. I think he would have pitched. He's their number 1 guy. He would have pitched last Thursday, so that would give him Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 5 days rest. I imagine he'd be the guy that they will start tomorrow. I haven't seen anything. I've checked their Twitter feed for an announced starter, but I haven't seen it yet. To their credit, the Gamecocks bounced back from that debacle to beat Kentucky 5-1 the next day in Columbia on April 29th. Adam Hill pitched outstanding in 5 innings, and Reagan and Johnson finished up. So there they were, splitting the first 2 games, a chance to win the series, and it was a tight ball game. And then Kentucky scored 3 in the 8th, 2 in the 9th, and they won 9-4. And the Gamecocks, John Park started that day, and Scott and Reagan and Johnson and Bowers all pitched, and didn't have enough late to hold off Kentucky, so they ended up losing that series. So Kentucky is a team with a lot of offense. There's no doubt about that, and very good pitching too. And on the throws out there tomorrow, Cody Morris perhaps, Collie Bowers perhaps, could be Kobe Lee, I'm sorry. Whoever they throw out there is going to have to eat some innings. And it could, if Kentucky's having one of those offensive days, the wind's blowing out, whatever, could be an ugly outing for the Gamecock pitching staff tomorrow.
Yeah, and they can
ill afford. Saying that they can't go out there and pitch well and be decent, but I'm just based on what we know and who's going to go out there, it could be ugly.
Well, two things to look at, and they're intangibles. First of all, you just told me Kentucky's coach is the coach of the year, kiss of death. Secondly, this is not like Kentucky is used to being in this spot. We'll see how interesting they handle this newfound success getting into the postseason and tournament play. May catch an over-anxious bunch that'll swing at anything, and you can widen the strike zone on them. We'll see.
All right, when we come back, Kerry Tharp, president of Darlington, will join us. We'll talk with him about last weekend's race, which was the All-Star race, of course, the big racing weekend ahead, and the news out of NASCAR with the 2018 slate announced today. All of that coming up. All right, let's go into Darlington County, where there's always a lot of exciting things going on. We welcome in the president of not just Darlington Raceway, but the czar of Darlington County. He is Kerry Tharp. KT, how are you?
I'm doing great, Phil. I think you're over-exaggerating there, but I appreciate it.
Well, it's always good having you with us, especially on a day when we got a bunch of news to talk about because NASCAR unveiled the 2018 slate. You guys untouched. You're back in Labor Day next year. How do you feel about that?
Well, I tell you, Phil, we couldn't be more pleased. Darlington Raceway for years had its Labor Day race, and then that went away, a few years ago. And so, we've been back. This will be our third year that we've had that Labor Day spot, and we're so glad that we're going to have it again in 2018. We believe that's where this race needs to be. It's so historic and such a tradition on Labor Day for the folks not only in the state of South Carolina, but all the NASCAR fans that follow us. And so we're pleased to be back on Labor Day. We're also pleased to be the 25th race on the schedule. I think that's important, being the second to the last race before they fill out the playoff field. I would much rather be the 25th race, I think, than the 26th. And so I think we came out in good fashion.
Explain that thinking to me. Why, in your mind, is it better being 25th than 26th?
Well, I think with our throwback platform that we introduced a couple years ago, and this would be the third year for it now, I think it stands on its own. I think it's the best platform in motorsports, in my opinion. We've worked extremely hard to build it. Fans have embraced it. The teams have embraced it. The media, the sponsors have embraced it. And I just think that if we had it on the last race of the regular season, that the emphasis could possibly focus more towards the who's going to get in the playoffs and who isn't, as opposed to, the throwback platform that we have. And so I like being in the 20th race. I think it's close enough to the end of the regular season, and yet it allows our platform to stand on its own.
And with that in mind, then, from where you sit, you feel like it's more important and Darlington's more valuable on Labor Day than even a spot in the playoffs? What if they wanted to talk about putting Darlington one year as one of the playoff races?
Well, that certainly would be attractive. But however, I still think that Labor Day is where we belong. I really do. I think it's a tradition in the sport, just like the Coca-Cola 600 is a tradition for Charlotte over Memorial Day, and the Daytona Summer Race is a tradition over the 4th of July. I think those are some traditions that need to stay put. And so, in my thinking, I would just as soon us stay on Labor Day. Now, if that would ever fall into to the playoffs, so be it. But I would much prefer to be on Labor Day than to give up that date and move into the playoffs. I think our fans love the Labor Day. It's that holiday weekend. It's that last real holiday that you have before school starts back and those types of things. So I would much prefer to be on Labor Day than be in the playoffs.
What else do you see in the schedule for next year as the most important, most significant things? I would imagine having a road course in the playoff, especially a new road course at Charlotte, and maybe another short track in the mix as well. Do you see that as the most important news?
Well, I do, and I think the schedule announcement that came out today for 2018 was pretty intriguing because I think you take a look at several things. Indianapolis, which has been a race that, quite frankly, has been having a tough time the last 4 or 5 years, is going to be the last race of the playoffs. And, I think that elevates that race. I think it puts more importance on it. I think it also, allows Indianapolis maybe to do some things to help, strengthen its position on the schedule. I do like the fact that we lead off the playoffs in Las Vegas. I think that's a great move. If you're going to start your playoffs off, why not start off with a bang? So you're going to start off in Las Vegas, and you're going to end in Homestead, Miami. So I really like those bookends when it comes to the 10 race playoff. And then I like the fact that that Richmond is now in the playoffs. Richmond, one of the great short tracks that we have, had been the cutoff race for many years ever since the playoff concept was introduced. And so, I like the fact that Richmond is now in the playoffs and also going back to a night race. And you mentioned that the road course in Charlotte, that's going to be quite intriguing. So, I think there was 4 or 5 really cool wrinkles that were introduced today with the schedule. And I think that'll give a lot of conversation for fans to talk about for quite some time.
And they're taking a race from New Hampshire to give Las Vegas a second event on September 16th of next year. They had to pull a race from New Hampshire.
Right.
NASCAR's been awfully big in New England. Those 2 races up there have always, I think, drawn big crowds. Your thoughts on that?
Well, they have, and I always enjoy going to New Hampshire. There's great race fans up there. That corridor, it's only about 80 miles from Boston. So there's a big metropolitan area that they have to draw from. However, I think that going to Las Vegas twice in a season, that's where we're now having our awards banquet. I think that's important. I think that there's plenty of race fans out there. There's certainly a great tourism factor when it comes to Las Vegas. It is the glitz capital of the country, and so I think for us to showcase our sport out in Las Vegas on the racetrack twice a year as opposed to one is a positive.
K-Mac, I get the feeling that KT feels very comfortable out in Las Vegas, that, in fact, he wouldn't mind moving NASCAR's headquarters out there to Las Vegas.
Yeah, why not? Huh? Why not?
I don't think I'd go that far, guys. I think where it is at Daytona. But I really do. I think Las Vegas does a great job supporting the series. And, we moved the banquet out there about 7 or 8 years ago. And there's a great influx of NASCAR fans out there. And certainly, there's so many people that come in and out of that city on a weekly basis that I think it's good exposure for the sport.
KT, speaking of Vegas, now this is my crazy idea, and I know other people. I'm not claiming I'm the first one to come up with this idea, but I think a great idea. I know there's some logistics involved here, but to get more fans showing up at tracks and maybe new fans involved in NASCAR, to have on-track betting, just like you have at horse tracks, where you can bet on the cars, the drivers. The different stages are set up perfect for this. I think it's a fail-proof idea, KT.
Well, I tell you, you're not the first person that has brought that up to me, but I admire your entrepreneurship there, K-Mac. I think that's certainly that. Who knows if that's something that we would look at. It certainly pays off in other sports. Certainly at the horse tracks, we see it, on a daily basis. But I know NASCAR is very prevalent when it comes to fantasy sports and those types of things. But as far as having it there at the track itself, I think that would that might be a few years in the making. But you might have something there, K-Mac. You certainly might.
We'll let K-Mac go place the first bet.
Yes, we will. We'll let K-Mac.
I'd be happy to.
K-Mac, you go through all the federal regulations.
Yeah, I'll lobby on behalf of NASCAR. Just let me know. Just sign me up.
Some security in the pits so that nobody can get to the pits. Hey, how about doctor out that engine?
Yeah, the professor's got
KT.
it right. He's right.
Good talking to you, my friend. We always appreciate
you
it.
too.
Have a great week. Enjoy the Memorial Day weekend, and we'll talk to you next week. Kerry Tharp, President, Darlington Raceway, with us here on Sports Talk on a busy day for NASCAR with the announcement of the schedule and the various changes. Big stuff in NASCAR. We'll be right back. Thanks again to Kerry Tharp for being with us here tonight on Sports Talk. Talking a little Darlington. Back underway over at the Hoover Met. Yes, indeedy. Top of the 7th, Missouri leading Texas A&M. The delay is over. It's 12-7 on top of Texas A&M. That's good news that they've got play back underway there. Clemson will be getting underway a little bit after 8. Already had 2 games in the books there today. Miami beat Georgia Tech in 13, 6-5. NC State beat Boston College 6-1. Danny Hall at Georgia Tech. You talk about if you want to talk about a coach who should be on the hot seat, it would be Danny Hall if you ask me, because that program has, to the best of my recollection, done absolutely nothing.
It's bizarre. I mean, they've had some great players and some great teams at Georgia Tech.
Yes.
They've been to Omaha, never won the College World Series. He's been around forever, and some really good teams that he's had there have had pretty epic collapses in the postseason, but they've kept him around for a long time. I don't know. He's an untouchable, but I would agree. It is surprising that that there's not more heat on him.
Yeah,
just
for whatever reason.
Teixeira, whole bunch of guys.
They've had great players.
Yeah. God, they produced some great players.
Kevin Brown, yeah.
Anything else to talk about in terms of local college tournament play? It's gone final up in Greenville now. VMI beat the Citadel 8-0. And was that single elimination?
That's it for the Cid.
Yeah. Yeah, bad year for the Citadel. Freddie Jordan, what a fabulous career he's had at the Citadel. Some people have been whispering that this might be it for him. Really tough year this year. Program has certainly slipped a lot, and he's been there as a player and coach going on like 30 years, I think. And has really done some great things there. I don't know what's going to happen with that situation, something to keep an eye on in the days ahead. The Big South at Lexington washed out today, so they'll try and get things rolling tomorrow. Oh, I wanted to mention that D1 Baseball came out with another projection for the tournament as of today, and they've got Clemson hosting a #1 seed with Mercer, Vanderbilt the 2 seed, and Connecticut the 3 seed. Winthrop they have in Chapel Hill as a 4 seed with North Carolina the 1 seed and the #2 national seed, and St. John's and Maryland in that one. No Gamecocks and no Coastal Carolina. I do not understand the aversion to Coastal Carolina with the way that they've been playing of late.
Yeah, that one surprised me. I kept looking, thinking maybe I missed Coastal Carolina in there, but man, that one surprised me a little bit too. The national champs who have played pretty well.
Yeah, they've got Lafayette coming out of that league, out of the Sun Belt, and I think that's the Ohio guy. Yeah, are they only giving the Sun Belt one team in the tournament? That would surprise me.
Yeah, they normally have at least 2, and sometimes 3.
I don't know. Well, they should have, of course, South Alabama. Well, they've got, I guess, Lafayette's in the Sun Belt, isn't it? Louisiana Lafayette?
Trying to think.
La is, they're in the.
Yeah, aren't they in the Sun Belt?
Unless they moved on. I can't keep up with all these conferences. They used to be in the Sun Belt.
Well, let me see. Yeah, they're in the Sun Belt, 35-20, 19-10. So they've got Lafayette in, and they've got South Alabama in, and Coastal has a better record going into the tournament than either one of those. So
maybe I don't know what. Maybe somebody made a mistake.
They looked in the Big South, didn't see Coastal, then forgot about it.
Speaking of South Alabama, of course, the head coach there,
Mark
former
Calvey.
Gamecock pitching coach Mark Calvey, and this is an interesting bit of irony. Some people on Twitter, even after the win, of course, there's some Gamecock fans that are upset at Chad Holbrook, and one person on my Twitter feed, Corn, suggested as a potential replacement for Chad Holbrook, South Alabama's Mark Calvey, who was
run off.
beaten up. Yeah, the Gamecock fans couldn't get him out of town fast enough. They won the national championship, and he left for that job, and not because of anything the Gamecock fans did. That's a very good job at South Alabama, but he was absolutely lampooned by Gamecock fans, and they won the College World Series, and then everybody's like, it was crickets. And then he took the South Alabama job. Now some of the same people are going, he's done a hell of a job there.
Yeah.
Maybe he should fire the bum we have now and hire him. I'm sure he would be really excited to listen to what he respects Ray Tanner. He would listen to Ray Tanner, but I don't know how excited he would be to go back into that mosh pit.
Oh,
yeah. Actually, I misspoke. I don't see South Alabama in here at all. So even though they've had a very good year too. So D1 baseball apparently only sees one team coming out of the Sun Belt, which I would find to be shocking. Like you guys, I'd be very surprised about that.
They made a mistake.
Here's another note. The Braves are playing right now, and they are losing to Pittsburgh 1-0. And today there was supposed to be a vote with the Sarasota County Commission. Did you know that the Braves are looking to move their spring training headquarters from Disney World?
They're going to let them leave? I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah, well, that was in the works for a while. Yeah.
So they're going to move to Tampa?
Maybe that's part of maybe that's just part of ESPN continuing to purge itself of
Get out of here.
People and properties.
The wide world of sports is out of here.
They're talking about a 30-year deal with Sarasota.
For
the Braves to go over there.
Yeah, that's a beautiful part of Florida.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Celtics tonight and the Cavaliers. Celtics, of course, captured the hearts and imagination of sports fans around the world 2 nights ago with that courageous victory coming from 21 down in the third quarter. And here's what's going to happen tonight. I'm going to tell you right now. You know what's going to happen tonight. Tonight, LeBron takes over the basketball.
He's going to dominate you. He's going to probably score 30 plus.
Yeah, I have no doubt that he scores 40 or 50 points.
Yeah,
tonight,
you're going to. I mean,
and probably shoots. He probably shoots 30 free throws tonight.
Probably.
He's going to get every call. You can't touch him. He's going to block 5 or 6 shots coming from the offside. You think you got to lay up. He's going to come flying in, swat them away. It's going to be that kind of game.
Yeah. How bad do you think you'll lose? 10 points, 15, 20?
No, we're going to win, though. Despite all that, we're going to win.
That, you're going to
win. Here's the problem you have. And it's a problem that the Celtics didn't think they would have. And that is suddenly Marcus Smart went back to Oklahoma State and found his 3-point stroke the other night.
Yes.
Let's face it, if he doesn't hit those shots, they don't win that game. The other key is this, Corn, and I've been telling you this from the get, that Isaiah Thomas is 28 years old. They got the #1 pick, and the Celtics are a better defensive team with him off the floor. Now, here's the interesting thing. They got to make a decision, because if Marcus Smart continues this kind of play, say tonight, say, hold it, wait a minute. The right team, right veteran, I don't drop too far, throw Isaiah in the deal, and I'm making a deal and getting me a big-time rebound, if that's possible.
Yeah, they do need a rebounder. Everybody knows that. Watch the Celtics. The only thing lacking from that team being in position to dominate the NBA for years to come is a rebounder, defensive force. I'm telling you, if we went out and made a deal for Jordan,
Michael Jordan,
with the
good luck.
Clippers.
I don't think he's playing anymore.
No, the other Jordan, the big Jordan. Yeah, DeAndre Jordan. I mean, that guy is a rebounding machine. He's a
great free throw shooter.
Blocking.
Great free throw shooter.
Maybe he'll get better. Look, Tristan Thompson was shooting 48%. Tristan Thompson was shooting 48% coming into the playoffs, coming into this series, and he's like, 95% from the line. So these guys can be taught.
But Will didn't hit free throws either. But guess what he did? He fouled out all your other guys.
Shaq didn't make a lot of them either. DeAndre Jordan.
Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow from here in Hoover. We'll see what the Gamecocks can do. Have a great night.